Please welcome Drew Mariani.
Thank you. Wow, what a pleasure to be here tonight. It's absolutely amazing. It is sad. It's our last night together. But I love what Sister said and won't say. The mission continues, right? And we'll all be perfectly united. I look out here, and I've got to say, as I look around this stadium, and I honestly wish you could see from this view what I see, right? Spectacular. I've never been more proud to be a Catholic than I am tonight. You know, the reason I say that is because I really believe change is coming. And it's you and it's me that are going to bring about that particular change. I was backstage, and Montse and I were watching the video that Relevant Radio put together. I don't know if you saw it. It ran right at the very top of the show. And what inspired me was how many good organizations and people are on the front lines making a difference. It's so easy to be overwhelmed, right, by the darkness that's out there. So easy to be overwhelmed by the bad news that is out there. And you look at groups like EWTN and Relevant Radio. You look at great bishops like Cousins or Bishop Robert Barron or priests like Father Michael Schmitz or Father Rocky. You take a look at the Knights of Columbus, and the list goes on. They're planting seeds. They're making a difference in a time where it seems as if though evil is increasing. And you know, it's easy to get sucked into that. I kind of got pulled into that recently. About 6 weeks ago, I had a conversation with my show team. I host a national radio program, reaches about 270 million households around the country. And I do a current event news-driven show. So what I do is I look at the biggest issues of the day through the eyes of our faith, and I also pray in the middle of it. So every morning I meet with my producing team, and as we were getting together, we were looking at what is the biggest, most important issue of the day. And I started to bemoan all the news, because it was all negative. You know what it's like, right? I mean, you turn on the TV, you go ahead and you go to the web, what do you see? Negativity everywhere. So as I was decrying this, one of my producers called me out. He said to me, he says, "But Drew, you're forgetting something." I said, "What's that?" He says, "In 6 weeks, something significant is going to happen." I'm like, "What's that?" This was a month and a half ago we had this conversation. He says, "There's a Eucharistic Congress. We are in the middle of a revival." And he says, "When the Lord comes, things change." And you know, he was absolutely right. Absolutely right. You know, St. Paul tells us in Romans 5, right, that as evil rises, grace abounds all the more. That the gates of hell will never prevail against the Catholic Church. You and I are on the winning side. And as I said, I think great things are happening. I think there's a revival afoot. When the light of Christ comes, things change. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this story, but I think it really shows where we are today. There's a story of St. Clare and the Saracen invaders. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to give you the very abridged, very short version of this. As tradition holds it, St. Clare, who was very ill at the time, she was a disciple of St. Francis, was in her convent in San Damiano. And invaders were coming. They were about to breach the city and take over the convent. And her fellow sisters were terrified. St. Clare was very ill, and they came to her seeking wisdom. They came to her seeking direction. What should we do? So she stopped, and she prayed, and then she asked God for protection. Then she asked her sisters to carry her and a monstrance with the Blessed Sacrament to the gate of their convent. And there she hoisted up the monstrance with our Lord truly present in the Eucharist. And they say that those invaders, when they saw St. Clare and they saw the Eucharist, they were stricken with fear and they were in awe. Others even say that light radiated from that Eucharist. And these people fled in fear. The inhabitants of the city were safe, and of course so were the nuns. But that story resonates with me because that's where we are today. It seems as though evil is rising. It seems everywhere you go. I cover the news. And I look at this stuff. I say, how are we ever going to win the battle when it comes to life in this country? How are we going to win the battle when it comes to sexuality and the warping of it and all the other issues that we have? One way, and that's with the Eucharist. And I think that this conference today is a pivotal moment for us as Catholics. I was given a presentation earlier in the week, and I was behind stage with a very holy bishop that I have a lot of respect for. And this particular bishop, I was talking to him about the events of the world and most importantly, this revival. He confided something to me. He says, Drew, a fellow bishop of mine said that he never thought he'd see in his day the vision of John Paul II, this new springtime in the church. But he says he is seeing it today. It has begun. On my way back from the stadium a little bit earlier today, I bumped into another bishop, and I asked him the same question about the springtime. You know what he said? And this is the key. He says that in springtime, we plant seeds. And that's what we're doing here today, aren't we? We are planting those seeds, but we have to water them with our prayer and with our sacrifice. And we have to do what St. Clare and all the great saints have done. We've got to embrace the Eucharistic Lord, make him center to our life. And if we do, I guarantee you're going to see conversion, not only in your life, but in that of your family. You're going to see a nation revived, and we're going to ripple out and affect the entire world. There's a revival underway today, and it begins right here in Indianapolis. I'll be praying for you. Love our Lord. Let the light of Christ guide your way. God bless you. Have a great night.